My father was H.B. Charles Sr. From what I am told of his biography, my dad ran away from home when he was just a boy, maybe 9 years old. And he had only been called in his life HB, and when he ran away, that is all he ever knew. So I'm not sure if he actually knew if HB truly existed or meant something else. And he went by HB and did it to me. I had been teased and mocked and ridiculed so much in school that as soon as I was legally able, I was determined to change my name. But in God's providence, by the time I was 18 years old, my father had been with Jesus 2 years, and by those circumstances, I knew what he meant to me and the investment that he made in my life and the way he poured into me as a boy preacher, and I was proud to bear his name. And as I say, he did it to me, and I did it to my son. My father, as a preacher, was primarily an evangelist. His preaching hero was Charles Haddon Spurgeon, and in many ways, that shaped the way my father preached. Most weeks, my father preached from one verse, and he would basically turn that verse throughout the sermon like a gem, showing the various beauties of the gospel in each of those texts. In that sense of Spurgeon calling a text and making a beeline to the cross, that's how my father preached week in and week out, and God blessed over the years for him to have a fruitful ministry.
And your father had a great influence on me. Your daddy was a great preacher. I mean, a great preacher, and of course, I think he was the greatest storyteller that I ever met as a preacher.
Sure.
And of course, I noticed you in your preaching, that's one thing that you do in illustration. It's great, it's outstanding. I've never been a storyteller. It's just I mean, every now and then,
Sure,
I can get one off.
Right.
Yes. Let me just quip the way my daddy would. My daddy would end his sermons with a concluding illustration, and he would say, if you miss my message, keep my story. One of my daddy's stories was about a young boy that got restless in his mama's house.
He looked at her son as he entered her room. He said, "Can I talk to you?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Mama, I'm leaving home." She said, "Son, I was hoping you would remain home. There's enough for both of us. And there's enough for you even when I'm gone." He said, "Mom, I figured you were going to talk like that. But do you know that every boy in this community that's been my friend have gone some way but me? Mom, I'm going." Are you listening to me? She said, "Son, if you must go, would you do Mama a favor?" He said, "Oh yeah, well he did that, so we could get going." She said, "Take Mama's Bible with you." I wish I wasn't so cold. Tell it. Take Mama's Bible. He put it in his luggage, took off. Years rolled around, and one evening, as the sun was sliding behind yonder's hill, and it seems as if all of nature had conspired to make it a beautiful sundown. There was a soft breeze, and the trees were dancing under its influence. Mama looked up the road, and there was her son coming. tears leaked from her eyes as she looked at him. She knew he'd been in trouble. She could tell from the way he was dressed. He had problems. He pulled the gate open and said, "Hi, Mom." She said, "Hi, son." She looked at him and she said, "Son, you had problems." He said, "Yes, Mama." She said, "What did you do with my Bible?"
He reached into his trash bag, pulled out that old Bible, and said, "Mama, this is all I got left. Life's been hard and took everything that I had. You took it," she said, "but did you use it?" He said, "Yeah, I did." He said, No, you didn't." "Yeah, I did." "You're lying to your mama." "No, you didn't." "Mama, how you gonna tell me? Because I know." She said, "Let me see the Bible." She saw that Bible. She unzipped it. She said, "Baby, I knew you wasn't ready. And I knew that you'd get out there and you'd make some mistakes. And you would need to know that God is a God of another chance. So I left $100 by 1 John 1:9 that said, if we confess our sins, He is faithful and just to forgive us our sin and cleanse us from all unrighteousness." Mama knew that you'd have some people to turn on you. So I left you $100 by that psalm that said,
Not God. Because of evildoers. Neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. For they shall soon be cut off.
The reputation season. The week my dad died, I was in Detroit, Michigan, preaching for his friend Roy Allen at the Chapel Hill Church. I was doing a youth revival from Sunday morning to Friday night, 3 times that Sunday, 5 times that week, and a couple of things during the day. The days leading up to my departure, my father had taken ill and was in the hospital the week before I departed. He had cancer to spread very, very quickly. And I talked to him that Sunday night, my first night of preaching there in Detroit. And when I heard his voice, I just began to cry and tell him I want to come home. And he told me, "Son, I need you to be a man and preach." And I told him I would, but he made me promise him that I would be a man and preach. We shared our love yous and goodbyes, and I hung up the phone, and it was the last time that I would ever talk to my father on this side of glory. But in the succeeding years, now almost 30 years since his death, when I think of my father, as I often do, what most naturally comes to my mind is that final conversation: be a man and preach. May the Lord help me to be faithful to that.